probably a good man. He was probably such a good man that he'd be frowning on us that we were not smart enough to progress and say, hey, we don't need to have him on the face anymore. Let's give somebody that did something better than owning some slaves.
Right. I mean, let's face it. If you own slaves, to me, you don't deserve to be honored in that way.
And I'm not saying that all them people were per se bad men back in the time. They were products of their environment. But at the same time, I don't think in any way, shape, or form we should glorize them.
No, I agree. I agree.
With the statues, the money.
So what we want to do real quick, and I don't mean to cut you off, we got the White House announces a new effort to place Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. On a video about Harriet Tubman and her going on the $20 bill and the protest behind it. I want to first go to the comments and see what people are saying.
This one jumps out at me right here. I just want to know if this guy's a white or a black guy.
Equating a black person with a dollar amounts. Yikes, sounds like slavery and racist. Electric, someone that stood for a history, she wasn't no good. See, people just, people say stuff that don't even make no sense. More important things to worry about than putting Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill, but a bunch of bullshit.
That's guaranteed. I will bet all the money on it. And if I'm wrong, please contact me. That's a Trump supporter.
Oh, there's no doubt. And listen, he says, well, look at the reply. You're a Trump fan. You were right. I mean, come on, dude. It's too easy to call. Let's read some more comments.
Listen, be open-minded. Understand that Jefferson, yeah, he was good at the time, but he owned slaves. We're trying to progress. We're trying to be better people. Like everybody should. Every day, you should always try to be a better person. We're not perfect.
One thing that always surprises me, whenever I hear the word, or I guess the saying, like the first black person to do this, and you're still hearing that in 2020,
right?
2021.
Yeah.
To me, that's always like, it's always so weird hearing that.
Well, that's like a Tupac song. Was it changes? It said we're not ready to have a black president.
No, we ain't, and we weren't. You see how people acted toward Obama? Right. But now look, where was the one? What in the flipping does this have to do with anything going on in the world right now? Well, let's see. We've had riots in the streets. Partially involved with race.
Well, it's taking back a little power is what it's doing. It's showing people that, hey, we're not for this no more. And believe it or not, that's why other countries look down upon us, because we walk around like we're so great. We're American.
But we're still stuck in the Stone Ages.
And we literally have the most people in cages.
Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. The Trump administration dragged their feet on that. I wanted to see if the Biden administration has a sort of view of the timeline on whether or not she should be on the paper currency.
I was here when we announced that, and it was very exciting. It hasn't moved forward yet, which we would have been surprised to learn at the time. The Treasury Department is taking steps to resume efforts to put Harriet Tubman on the front of the new $20 notes.
Now that Trump's gone.
It's important. And it took getting Trump out for that to happen. I mean, come on.
Money, people don't know what a note is.
And once again, please understand, I'm not for neither one. My mom's a Trump supporter.
So now, real quick, she says, and she said it with a smirk, that this was supposed to have been done years ago. I remember when they announced it. It was like,
well, they were debating. Ago. He was debating whether it was the 5 or the 10. They wanted the 20.
Right. So, I just, for me, I think that it should have been done. I'm shocked that it hasn't. Harriet Tubman, you got to understand, she stood up for freedom, and she risked her life to free slaves at a time when that just was unheard. People don't realize the KKK, this is what people don't get. The KKK, people say, oh, the slaves were freed after the Civil War. The KKK was started after the Civil War, and they were there to enforce terror.
We still ain't free. Nobody's free. You know why? Because it was just, it was switched over to prison system. They invented laws. It took the place of slavery. Gave all their buddies still jobs. They still can make money off the minorities. It's not slavery now. It's our belief that you don't live in right.
Now, y'all, we're going to do our final video.
Botched execution. Good Lord.
I wanna talk about execution. If you did something where you raped and murdered children,
raped or murdered anybody at that point. Grown man, grown woman, I don't care. If you rape and murder someone.
Has anybody ever been executed for being a big time drug dealer?
No, they can't execute. Final breakdown, y'all. Bear with us. Let's check it out.
You're remembered forever, or will you just go in silence, taking with you the sins that got you where you are?
I'm wondering if y'all can hear my stomach growling.
I know you're getting hungry.
Not how they pictured them.
We've been at the gym, just got out, y'all. Good work.
Dosage of a lethal cocktail. These 10 deaths were met with some serious kinks, giving us the top 10 botched executions. Number 10, John Lewis Evans III. The execution of John Lewis Evans didn't bode well for capital punishment supporters. The robber turned murderer was the first execution in the state of Alabama since the reinstatement of the death penalty in 1976. 7 years after reintroducing capital punishment, Evans' execution proved to be a prime example cited by opposers.
Oh, electric
after
chair.
The inmate died in what is considered a rather torturous manner. Evans was strapped to the electric chair nicknamed Yellow Mama, which was well over 50 years old and had been out of commission since 1965. The
Wow.
execution of Evans took 14 minutes and
Good
3
Lord.
separate jarring jolts from the device. Between 8:30 and 8:44 p.m., the inmate charred from each jolt. The stench of his burning flesh and clothing
Wow.
surveyors. Despite pleas from Evans' attorney for clemency due to the lengthy and painful electrocution, the switch was flipped a third time, finally killing Evans, whose fist had been permanently clenched since the first jolt of 1900 volts.
Man, let me ask you, that's freaking horrible.
That's nuts.
I mean, that's
I thought
horrible.
after they actually hit you with it, if you didn't die, it was like
That's what I always thought.
like, they're like,
They
"We had
said
to
he
let
was
you
hit
go."
3 times.
I know.
If you had to choose, if you were on death row and you had to choose lethal.
Yeah, because they say you go to sleep. I guess it's the most.
But you know what I've heard about lethal that scares the shit out of me? They said that a lot of these guys, so they give you the first thing, the sedative, which is basically Valium. The second thing stops your breathing. One of them stops your breathing. But they said that a lot of these guys are laying there paralyzed, not being able to breathe, but they
know
can't
they're
move
dying.
either.
They're suffocating, drowning.
I would take shooting. Personally.
Do they still do? Do they still do? I
There's
think when they
one
do
state, Utah, I believe, still does shootings.
They do. They have everybody with a gun, but only one person actually has the bullet. That
Right.
way, no one has the bad conscience.
I mean, think about it. Yeah, the injection sounds fun, but
They
imagine
still do
because there's
gas
been,
chamber.
no.
No
That's
gas
just,
chamber?
to my knowledge, the gas chamber is banned there. To me, that's the worst one. They say with that gas chamber, when you swallow the gas, your lungs start to cough up
I
like
wonder
pieces.
when the last time they killed someone with a gas chamber.
The 80s.
80s,
The
yeah.
80s. Yeah, it was in California. If I'm not mistaken. If somebody knows the details,
Yeah,
tell us.
And I'm smiling and laughing about it, but it's not funny at all. I'm glad that as a society, somewhat, that we've progressed a little bit of inhumane punishment with,
But you know
with
what's
humans.
crazy though? That not just with executions, but with a lot of things, like people had to do some very fucked up things so we could know the things we do now. About
I'm
science.
with
A lot
you.
of people
That's-
had to suffer.
Yeah, it's
a lot
crazy.
of people. A lot of people have suffered over the years.
Yes. Oh, so apparently there was a gas chamber execution in 2020. Excuse me. I didn't know. In America?
What state? I love them.
Germany. Okay. Hey, they really love gas over there. So we're going to get to the top 2 botched executions because we're kind of in a rush here. Let's check them out. Botched executions, the
First
top.
account tells of an
Oh, that's right. What about the
man who
beheading?
was still breathing.
That's probably the quickest.
11 times. Once
Oh,
in the
maybe
shoulder
not.
before
That's what I was going to say. Listen. There was a queen.
times.
There was a queen whose king betrayed her, and he sent her to the Axeman and whacked her over the neck a bunch of times before it finally killed her.
He probably told her to do that.
You know, there was an old tradition of tipping your hat to the Axeman, and the reason was you wanted the Axeman to give you a good whack, so you didn't suffer.
Right.
So you would see these old timey people. They come up and they tip their hat to the executioner because please kill me quick. You know. So let's check this out. I think this is 3. We're going to go through the last 2.
once in the shoulder before he was finally able to behead her. The second account, the blame is on Margaret, who is said to have tried to run from her fate. Regardless, it was a messy execution that took longer than it should have. Number 3, Jimmy Lee Gray. The grotesque and seriously depraved acts of Jimmy Lee Gray landed him in a Mississippi gas chamber in 1983. Rightfully so, Gray paid for his crimes, but his execution was far from clean. Despite regulations required as such, Gray's head was not strapped to the vertical metal bar behind his chair, so when the gas started to leak into the room, Gray thrashed about. His head slammed into the restraining bar repeatedly, and he emitted 11 moans before finally losing consciousness. The scene was gruesome enough for the room to be cleared before Gray could finally succumb to the gases he was breathing in. Number 2, Brian Steckel. 29-year-old Sandra Lee Long received her justice when, on November 4th, 2005, her rapist and murderer, Brian David Steckel, was injected with a deadly dose during his execution. Lethal injection starts with a sedative drug so the inmate doesn't feel the fiery effects of the potassium chloride as it is injected into their veins. But Steckel's execution was done without the sedative. After the injection machine malfunctioned and officials switched the inmate to a working one, they still neglected to give Steckel the paralytic and sedative. As Steckel was not paralyzed or sedated prior to the chloride being administered, his body started to convulse, likely a reaction to the extreme pain he felt as the chloride coursed through his veins. While Steckel waited the 12 minutes for the procedure to be completed,
I don't feel too bad
he
for
spoke
him,
very apologetically to his witnesses
well,
the entire time.
Goddamn, well, at least he was,
One,
at least he was
Tom
apologetic
Ketchum.
for it.
Oh, you know, old school. This got to be some right here.
Execution by hanging.
Hanging.
Sending the convicted's body plummeting to the ground below.
That's
bet
probably
you
the
it took
worst.
his head
I
off.
forgot all about hanging.
For the individual's body to sever completely from their head.
Yep.
In the case of outlaw Tom Ketchum, or Blackjack, this is precisely what happened. The executioner in charge of the hanging had apparently miscalculated the length of the drop needed to snap Ketchum's neck, allowing 7
I
feet
couldn't
between
imagine.
the platform and the ground. When Blackjack was released, his body fell the full 7 feet. The momentum of the drop and the sudden snap of the rope decapitating him completely. Spectators were privy to a bloody show as his headless body.
Y'all just gonna show us that?
They taking
Hey.
pictures like it was something.
They
That's
taking
back in the
pictures
day.
like they posing with a bear.
That's
you
back
know?
in the day.
Hey, so you know we're gonna leave with this. What is y'all's worst nightmare of an execution? What do you think would be the worst execution? Because look, I've seen there's some shit online of people being executed over in other countries. That's just it makes this stuff look mild, okay? But what would be your worst example of an execution? Also, what do you think of the death penalty? What do you think of the death penalty?
I believe if you're convicted of first-degree murder, you plotted something out, you know, didn't really have no motive other than just murder, and it's premeditated. I believe like eye for an eye.
Eye for an eye?
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
because listen, you took someone's loved one. You know what I mean? Why do you get the right to keep moving on God's green earth when you out here taking other people's lives? And the fact that you did it once just leads me to believe that possibly you could do it again.
So now let me
And
make
especially
my
with
argument.
rapists too. Rapists.
And I'm
the
with
same
you.
way.
I'm with you. Now, here's my argument against it. I say, first, if they don't have DNA evidence proving, I'm against
no.
it.
Listen, I'm talking about if someone's actually in a perfect,
In a perfect world where they're
perfect
guilty.
justice system. Yeah.
Because here's why I'm against it.
Unfortunately, our system is whack.
It's flawed.
Way big time.
We've seen people get freed 30 years later
Well, not only that,
and proven innocent.
Look at old boy in Alabama. Remember we were talking about the sheriff. He put that man, ended up being innocent, proven innocent by DNA.
Yep.
Put him on death row before he even went to trial.
So now imagine if he'd have been listen, thanks to everybody who tuned in, man. We appreciate y'all. Shout out to our tech guy, Esteban.
man.
Shout out to our editor, Omar.
Iraqi assassin, baby.
We love y'all. Make sure you tune in next week. See y'all soon.
Peace.
Peace.